Hi there. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jeff Stone, the editor-in-chief of CyberScoop. I'm happy to be joined today by Jothi Dugar, the Chief Information Security Officer at the National Institute of Health. She's also a wellness coach, an author, and a public speaker. Jothi, thank you for being here. There's been a lot thrown at CISOs in 2020. How has this year changed the CISO role?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today. My passion is really people, and not many people associate cybersecurity with an emphasis on a people-centric approach. So with that, I think this whole pandemic has taught us a lot about how to take care of ourselves as human beings. And in the cyber world, it's no different. So using people-centric approaches is really going to be crucial. It's not all about technical skills. It's also about empathy, emotional skills, and what some would term as soft skills, but those are really the hard skills to learn because it's not something that's easily taught or even understood for the most part. So with everyone being so disparate and remote, it's really crucial to form that sense of connectedness, which sometimes we have in the technology perspective with remote access technologies and things like WebExes or Zoom, those sort of remote technologies. But oftentimes the concept of just connecting with people often goes missed.
So just as you alluded to, workforces now are so much more distributed than they were just 7 or 8 months ago. What has that taught security leaders when it comes to implementing security policies throughout an organization?
So one is you have to know where your people are and what sort of environments are they working in. And what I mean by that is before, a lot of government agencies did not allow 5 days a week of telework. Maybe it was one day a week and not everyone teleworked. But now that everyone is teleworking, oftentimes, we haven't really established our telework location to be ideal. Like some of us don't have printers already set up and connected to our government computers and government issued printers. We may have, most of us probably do. If you're parents, you have kids running around here and there. Are we really protecting our company equipment or our government equipment from all the other family members, or even protecting it from our own home networks? So there's a lot to play in there. And then also, how are we actually connecting with each other using technology? So some organizations did a great job, and they were already looking at things like VPNs and those type of setups. And some other organizations had to come up with all that on the fly and really make that happen. And I've seen some organizations actually didn't even have laptops that they issued to their staff before because they weren't really big on telework before. So they had to really stockpile themselves with last minute orders of laptops and make sure the laptops are configured correctly and secured correctly, and then ship them out to folks. So it's something that it's one of those things where if you're already prepared, then this really didn't make a huge difference. But if you weren't prepared already, then you had to take all of these initial steps from the basic level all the way up.
What about talent? How has the remote nature of work affected the way that security teams and security leaders are thinking about their hiring, reskilling, diversity, equity, inclusion? There's a whole list of things. Sure.
So it is a little bit more challenging, but I think every challenge comes to us for a reason. It helps us really recognize how we can grow and learn from this and keep up leveling ourselves. From within, but also in an organization. So when it comes to talent, I strongly believe in this holistic approach to pretty much everything in life. So that includes talent. A lot of times, cybersecurity leaders, but also leaders in an organization look for talent that's already skilled and has tons and tons of experience. But that we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot if we only look for experienced personnel when we're trying to hire. Because we have a lot of colleges now with cybersecurity degrees, and even higher degrees like masters and PhDs in computer science, but in cybersecurity, but they're not able to find positions because everyone's looking for the experience, not really the school or the education. And I take a really different stance on that. I believe we need diversity and inclusion, which includes different types of skills, experiences, people, genders, from a holistic point of view. So we do need the higher level experienced staff, but we also need people at all different levels, including the fresh out of college level as well. And we do need to take that time to get in these folks from the younger generation and spend the time to train them. I think that's really where a lot of cyber leaders hesitate, because if we bring in younger, or maybe not even younger, but just folks without experience, we do have to take the time to provide that training, on the job training to them. But that is crucial, in my opinion, because one, you get to see where the gaps are in your organization. You might think like, oh, I have a great SOP that everybody knows about. That's great, but then you don't really know how great it is unless you have someone new come in and actually follow the steps in your SOP and let you know, like, hey, this doesn't make sense. How did you go from step 5 to step 6? What happened in between? So it is a win-win situation, but you have to change your mindset to look at it like that. And also, just really quick, even within, you don't necessarily always have to look for skill and talent outside of your organization. There's so much you can do within your own organization to upskill your current workforce. Because there's a lot of IT folks, IT staff out there. There's also administrative staff and all kinds of different stakeholder groups that might be willing to learn cybersecurity. Maybe they're even interested and they just didn't know how to get in or how to get trained. So I would really put it out there for CISOs to offer opportunities for like detailed positions or on the job training or cross training, or just opportunities where you can dedicate, let's say, 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week to really train someone from a different group or different organization and expose them to cybersecurity, so that at some point in time, cybersecurity isn't just one thing, it's everything. So it's in our best interest to train everyone on it.
Certainly, the more perspectives, the better, right? As some of these threats continue to grow in sophistication, organizations are facing a big challenge, kind of as you alluded to, in recruiting skilled, security-minded professionals who are capable of protecting their systems against these hackers and these malicious attackers. How do we close the gaps that exist in the nation's current cybersecurity education and training landscape? You mentioned this a little bit, but walk me through your thinking a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah. So, in addition to that, everything has to have an integrative approach and a holistic approach. So, top down, bottom up, all around. Creating things like cyber champions programs, where making cyber fun for people, and especially from when you're talking about a diversity in terms of gender. I've done a lot of research and I've done a lot of work in this area of bringing in more women and more girls interested in cybersecurity. And oftentimes what happens is it's really regarded as a technical, a very technical field, one that's male dominated and one that doesn't really seem to cater to how women are wired. And it's really unfortunate that that's what's happening, when it's actually it's almost exactly the opposite. Especially if you want to go the leadership route in cybersecurity, which is the beauty of cybersecurity, is that you can pretty much do almost anything. It really opens. It's a very open field. It's not very like, okay, this is what cybersecurity is. That's like the only thing you can do in it, and there's really no opportunity to do anything else. It's such a broad field. You could you could be very technical and do the pen testing or coding and things like that. If you really wanted to, you could stay there your whole life, or you could actually branch out and do more of the leadership role. And a cybersecurity leader is very different than other leaders in the organization. And I say that because you might be a leader in the organization, but you might not be at the same C-suite type of level as the other leaders. So that kind of puts you in a very unique position. It's neither good or bad. That's just how it is. But with that position, you really have to learn how to communicate effectively and strategically with everyone. It's not just your leadership, but it's also people that your direct reports. It might you really have to learn how to collaborate between your peers, all across the organization, and you really have to know how to tell the story in a way that resonates with the other person. So it's a very, and I say that just because as women, we kind of naturally tend to do that anyway, especially if you're a mom or you're a working parent. You're having to paint that picture and tell stories to your kids to get them to, listen, or your husband or other people. So it kind of just naturally comes to you. And most people don't realize that there's a lot of traits that women have, that the collaboration skills. You're just naturally wired to collaborate and communicate and build those relationships effectively. You could bring all of that to the cybersecurity world and really be successful.
Right. Jothi, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We appreciate you joining us and walking me through some of these topics today and during CyberTalks. We'll be sure to bug you again, but until then, thank you.
Thank you.